Welcome back, audience. I almost said it like, anyway, welcome back. Cheers. Let's make another video. Why don't we, huh? And in this video, I want to talk about the one ring that rules them all and how can that appear. Like for example, at any point in time, is there a leverage that you could use that automatically solves everything? I think you would ask that question. I mean, if you're not asking that question, then are you playing the game? You know what I'm saying? Maybe, you know, what asked this question is what I'm trying to say. One of the things that I see, for example, okay, to me right now, I see everything as either, um, breaking down the old and creating the new, and then regurgitating the old. Okay, like everything that if you really look at it, everything is about something that is capable of changing from the past into the true future, and something that keeps revolving. Like at the essence, you can see that. Like if you really need to look at like what is the system doing, is it seems that the half of the system is doing this thing, or just looping the fuck out of itself, and because of the looping, because there's no resolution, the heat builds up, the energy is built up, and because they do, um, discomfort grows, and the more the discomfort grows, the more they need to keep on chasing the same thing. So the trap, the matrix trap, the prison way. And then the life could also be school, ever learning school. You're always in the process of learning, which is the true, true learning, not the knowledge learning, but the true meaning of learning is self-dissolution on a regular basis, dying and being reborn at a regular basis, at a certain level of consciousness. That's essentially what it is. Because your old you must die for the new you to be born. I mean, obviously. And so if somebody is refusing that death, then they bound to repeat the same cycle. So you have to be able to say like, fuck it, I'll go through this, whatever it needs to be, gone through. And only the idea of it that it's gonna be hard is the only thing that is hard about it. Because when you go there, you're gonna learn the courage and surrender, of course, as your two things that it takes you through everything, and then you go in, and then the real life actually starts. Okay, and you get to know that it wasn't like ending something and starting the new thing. It's about living at a certain level where that is happening naturally. Like you're not leaving that dimension at a certain level of in your heart. Does that make sense? If you don't leave that space, everything else is going to be all right. As soon as you leave that space, the vigilance falls, and disconnection starts happening. So just never leave that space. Means where's your true attention? Is it leaning against that thing and doing its liminal thing? And if it's doing that, then you are at that level. Anything that tries to separate that, you reunite. So you keep that as a primary importance in reality, like above everything else, even because that can even take care of the physical too. Like even for example, if you feel like well financially, you still have to run, your life like that. Yeah, sometimes even that is taken care of as well. Like with no effort. Does that make sense? Everything begins to appear so lucky and effortless and easy. So, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that That's what you want. Things to come easy for you because you took care of something that is of an essence. So things are coming easy for you. You take care of that thing and things will come easier and easier for you. Take care of the source. There is a delay. There is a delay because time cycles have time cycles. You understand? Like, if to clear the time cycle, you need to, the patterns that are going, for example, in this year or this year cycle, the way they're already programmed, they're already going to be programmed. But it's not like a high definition thing, just roughly what's going to happen, And the more defined you become, the more closer to the current point it is. So basically what you've been creating, for example, last 6 months may be coming in the next couple of months. Like I'm just trying to say that there is a delay on some things, and then there's no delay on other things. Okay, so delay is one of those things that needs to be accepted, because if you do not accept delay as a part of the system, then it may cause you a lot of frustration. Does that make sense? Like, oh, why is it not here or whatever? Like, I've done all this and all of that. Trump. Blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Cheers. Anyway, what was I saying? Something important. Okay. One ring that rules them all. Right? So delay is something that is part of it. I was watching as well. Like, if you don't respect delay, then you may get frustrated and crash out too soon. There is a way, to play this game in a way where you are calm about that, in a sense that it's coming. Does that make sense? Like, it's already done, it's coming, and it will arrive in due time. Like, and if it arrives once a year, then whenever the year is up, then that's when it's going to arrive. And some things are much faster as well. Some things manifest much faster. But the thing is, and the theory is, that if you live, at the source, and that is, you always gotta keep on alchemizing whatever separates you from it, then things are already on the way to you. Given the fact that you are living at the source level, which is like that peaceful bliss in the background, it is already coming to you. Jesus said, seek the kingdom of God and everything else will be added on to you. So that's one thing, that everything is already on the way to you if you live at that point. Not to say that you don't enjoy your imagination, and that may, color things up, but there's one thing about the white magic which I just realized. It does the one thing about the white magic, it does not break certain principles. It does not break certain rules. And the black magic would argue that that's weakness, but it is not weakness, but it just does not cross them. Does that make sense? So your imagination will not overrule your heart if you live from the heart. Because sometimes your imagination may start, pumping all of these different things, but if if your heart is not in accordance with that, then everything, all of that energy that was used for the imagination and whatever's been structured there is going to be utilized in a similar way in more appropriate setting. So it's not wasted, right? But you may be dreaming something that is not quite exactly what it was, or maybe not the people that you thought that are involved in it, right? So, but your heart takes you where you're supposed to be, and mind now becomes second in command. Okay, and if the mind starts imagining something that is not what's in the pathway of the heart, then the heart will take the superiority, and all the energy that's been generated is going to be used to generate something similar. Okay, so that's how it appears to be working. Yeah. And then of course the mind can tailor, understand more. It's like, oh, that's not what's going on. All right, so and then start imagining closer to the what's really going on. But heart is the one that leads. So your mind is second in command, and then your body is in the third in command. But the command is supposed to be used, meaning that you're supposed to still continue imagining, even that you imagine something that's not quite of what your heart's where your heart is going to take you. Does that make sense? It may not be exactly, it may not be a specific that specific thing, but the fact that you've been dreaming about that specificity, everything about it, the quality of it, may be put in another setting with different people involved or in a different place, but that's there. So if you allow that flexibility, then you are not breaking that free will, because breaking free will produces ego and that backed up thing, I should say. So that's what the thing with the white magic. Okay, and it is limited by grace. It is not permitting to manifest something that is not graceful. This is what I've realized. So it cleans up your magic. It cleans up your magic. And then later you can change what you're imagining as more and more clarity arises. That's the thing in imagination. It's probably best to imagine something general already. If you got to put specific people in it, put specific people in it, but you are just creating the story. But how the story is going to be created is really, like you simply say, like, how much of that do you want? Like, if your ego says like, no, 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 I want that, but your heart says like, no, that is not what's best for you, like literally best, like you think that is good for you, this you got something so much better in store. That's what the heart is saying. It's like, no, you got so much fucking better. And the mind is like, no, I want this, and whatever that better is, we don't know. That we have to be okay with that surprise, you see. And there's a power in being okay with the surprise. And so then that allows us not to be like such a control freaks, but still have control over our lives, but know that it goes by the certain rules and principles for our own good. Okay? And those are the true boundaries. Like if you live through these boundaries, then you live holistically, like truly holistically. So there's that okayness with being a surprise. But it's weird because it is it's like unbelievable confidence, I suppose you can say. But it is just like it's almost like knowing um, the rough outcome that it's going to turn out, given the fact that you're doubling down on your heart. You bet on that so much that you know that that's just gonna work out for the better. Does that make sense? And the reality is probably that like you're supposed to give it 100% faith, and that is, um, I think like when you give it 100% faith, and you see how it works, then you give it full power. You're not leaking energy anymore. Give 100% faith, meaning to explain like what I'm talking about is placing your attention on upon the source of it. One way of saying it. And then what else we can do is become aware of the space and openness, that spaciousness, that deep peaceful energy, but not letting go at the center as well. And in between, there's this magic that's going on. There's this nuclear reaction that's happening. Like that's one way of saying it, but it sparkles and it moves and it's alive and it's like it's difficult. That's why people say difficult to describe. But if you were to try to describe why it's so difficult to describe, it is because it is alive. That's one way of saying it, but I know it's not really communicating enough. It's like it's like very intimate connection with the energy that is moving around you, and that energy moves in such a beautiful way. And so it generates the feelings that are so beautiful and colorful and difficult to describe. It's a intensely subtly, like I'm trying to say, like something that is so subtle has such vividness. That's another way of saying. And magic in there, another way of saying it. So it's a pixie dusts and stuff like that. I mean, you can feel whatever it feels the way it feels. You can't control how it feels because it knows how to feel in the best way possible already. So just basically, if you were to be in a live motion of feelings and emotions, and if you were to ask the question, what is the ideal state that those all emotions could be moved in every single second of the way? And so that is what it is that motion of energies that's just, and this is why it feels so deeply alive and amazing and ecstatic. That's the true ecstasy, not the other one that you just chase, you get off on it and stuff like that. That's the true ecstasy. Okay? And it sparkles as fuck. And so there, if you're there, you are on your throne. And it's interesting, like that. What makes you stay on your throne is keep on bringing the focus there and playing with your focus there, looking at the deepest point, the lowest rung, as Jesus said, and the lowest rung is being the one ring that rules them all. That's what the lowest rung is. Got to this, the first one, and the first one is that primordial energy motion that is alive, bliss and peace dancing. It is alive. You understand what I mean when I say it's alive? It is pure life, meaning what is the definition of life? It is the definition of life. It's the harmonious movement in the perfect patterns, if you were to describe it. This is the juice of life, the life itself. And everything else, if it's built based on that movement, that vibration, is going to be a beautiful one. That's why the mind must just borrow the energy and dream beautiful things, but the mind will sometimes be corrected by the heart, because in that clarity, in that bliss, there is there's one wonderful thing that happens there. Okay, you don't have to worry about boundaries. You don't have to worry about you making a wrong thing or somebody else making a wrong thing. There's a faith and trust that everything is perfect because it feels perfect. Does that make sense? So you always want to be in that sparkle. And you know that sparkle is actually other souls. That's like when you go a little bit up the level, you realize this is other souls, and we're sort of reflecting the light to each other, and this is why it sparkles so much. And so people may call it a soul group or whatnot. That's what makes that energy sparkle, because eventually that primordial soup of, Mandelbrot fractal zoom thing, that is feelings, thoughts, sensations, everything is in a primordial state. And when it splits, as soon as there's outside, there's inside. There's this. I am something, and I'm in this sphere, right? This is what it is. Like, it's a holographic sphere. That's what appears. This other, as not you, appears as your environment, and then you, that it is you, appears as your internal environment. And so there's that thing about consciousness, there's a state. You can move beyond that, where that is no longer different. Okay. But that's very deep, right? But sometimes you can be in parallel levels, and this is where I think it's the best way, to live. You want to be spread out through all of the dimensions of consciousness and densities of consciousness. You want to be spread out through all of them. And sometimes when energy needs to be put more on here, you put more on here, more in alchemy, something more in magic, more in magic. And you just direct the energy. And that is your joystick, of life. Is directing energy. And we're just directing energy. At least you know what the fuck is happening and what the essence of the game. It's directing energy. In a right way. The challenge is the matrix, the archons, is something to throw you off. It's something to make you need to direct the energy. So there is a game. Does that make sense? But the answer of winning this game is the direction of energy. I mean, I may not say something new, but I'm saying this from deep, the deepest source level. At that, like once you manage those energies, and what I said, the first energy to start managing is that in your heart, not to have that backwards movement, to put all the energy going to the fusion, not fission. This is what your alchemy is all about. It's not letting it go. So what does that mean, that Ringdelt rules them all? That means that you understand where the energy must be going with your attention, and you don't place attention on the things that it's not supposed to be on. That's the first lesson. So your attention is always placed upon you, your true essence, and it's keep on bubbling by itself. Okay? So that's the first thing that you gotta do. Then things gonna change with your mind, things gonna change with your body, because your mind now is gonna be in this state that ambiguity, where it's just gonna be about to be rewired, right? And sometimes you may feel like, you can't even use your mind. You feel like a baby sometimes. Um, but to me, it wasn't lasting. But there was a point where I was just like, holy shit, I can't think, I can't remember things. It's just like, really, the brain is not functioning. But that's okay, because that's like the phase that you go through, because when you flipped your energy going in complete different direction, the polarity shift, which is, by the way, what they're talking about, like the earth is going to shift polarities. What does that mean? That means that as soon as the energy starts flowing in that correct way, that self-reciprocating way, in enough souls, then collectively, because the earth and souls are basically one cohesive energy whole, actually. So um, as soon as we enter to that higher level of coherence reality, the planet and people are going to have to start representing that. And so that's what it means about the polarity shifts of Earth. I don't know about um, the polarity itself, probably is, but there might be something deeper going on than just the polarity, because this is what I would see within myself. It's not just a polarity flip. It is something that is a self-regenerating source of energy that's not supposed to exist. That energy is supposed to be limited, but this does not give a fuck. This generates unlimited source of energy. So I think that if that's the case, if that's what happens to on a planetary scale with Earth, then it will be some sort of energy balance that is going to generate its own source of energy, and that energy is going to be something like an organ, or the energy that makes people feel good, right? Where there's no suffering anymore. They just feel good. There's no motion in that ego side, because that's all it was. That's all it ever was. It was just that the conscious motion of consciousness towards that ego. Okay. But when you flip the energy, ego cannot help but change, and these people become, switched on. Really, it's just like a switching the light on. And I think that's the whole point of this game right now, is to get to the point where the entire planet has already shifted polarities, and then that's it. The rest of it is just history. It's just going to take some delay sometimes, as it does in a world of time. There are delays and there are cycles, and it takes one cycle to clean everything up, right? I really think that's how it works. And really, you don't have to, there's something about this, why it works, is because you're like, it's very not tantrumy. It's not like, oh, I want it now and I want it exactly like that. It's not tantrumy. It's like everything, the best that there is, it's already done and on its way. And as long as I stay in that vibration, that will be so. It may delay, it may take some time, whatever those cycles are, but it's happening. And I don't know how long it takes, for example, when you shift into the vibration, how long it takes for everything to respond to that level of vibration. Probably a long time. Probably a long time. But as long as you stay there, it's happening. It may happen like on some things on a smaller scale start happening, and then on higher scales, and then the deeper scales, and it is happening, okay? Because you are moving already in the right direction, and you already self-generating source of energy. Okay, so that is really how you switch yourself on, and others can help you to switch yourself on by showing you, because you're just like open your eyes and you're just like um in a swimming pool, right? Like swimming. You just freaking started realizing what's going on, and the first thing you see that you're fucking swimming, and you have to figure it all out. And then there's people, around you. It says like, "Oh, calm down, breathe, move slower. You're fine." And then little by little, you're like, "Oh shit! All right, I get it. What's going on here? I get like what do I do with my tension here, right? That's how it's supposed to be, you know." And then it becomes your responsibility. And sometimes you're gonna have to go to places that are super dark, and you know that you're gonna have to go to these places by yourself. You know, I don't know how much of it is true by this time. Um, it might not be true anymore. Like what I'm trying to say is that, like, as you keep going and increasing in coherence, the past becomes the true past. It does not, like, for example, what was true then is not true now. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay, what was true then, it is not true now. And so that's one of those things. Another thing that the ego may cling in and play the logics card and say like, well, that just makes no sense. Like, shouldn't we keep the same opinion about the same person? Uh, because it's not safe. Like, what if? How can we now give trust to somebody, like, or like more trust to somebody who um, se- seemed untrustworthy? Does that make sense? And so you do it in a spirit that it is not so anymore. But you gotta feel it that it is not so, because if you still have a doubt, then it is so. And the doubt comes at those feelings, which means if you've alchemized completely, then the doubt's not gonna be there. And if the doubt is not gonna be there, then whatever is truth you feel there, it is so. Does that make sense? And so to believing in that truth, or I shouldn't say believing, but living by that truth, um, it may take time for things to change. I don't know. Maybe the entire planet will need to be completely changed and rewired on a planetary scale, and only in that level of coherence, only then the chickens come home to roost. You know what I'm trying to say? That may happen, but even if if that is true, it's still the system is working fine, right? You're not doing anything wrong. Like, just because you're not seeing the fruit yet, but of course, you realize that where you live is you know in paradise, meaning internally. And know that that's gonna make things right. You just know, like, you keep on emanating that energy, keep on emanating that energy. It's the most wonderful state of consciousness there is. And this is what I always try to fall back on. And you always need to be not freezing it with words too. Does that make sense? Because like the moment you describe it, in the next moment it is not so. Now you have to describe it something else, right? So this is why there's a part of you that has to be okay with that flux, that continuous trust, continuous faith. And the fact that you can play with it, and the fact that you can go there, and the fact that you can fight for it when it's being when the systems try to dethrone you. But as long as you say like, no, this is what I'm going to be fighting for. All of my energy goes here. I will not leave my throne at no circumstances. You can be there forever. And in a way, um, sort of like you never left, it was always there, but it was just hiding behind your sorrow. That was it, right? It's sort of like you discovered something that was always there, but you couldn't see it because your attention is what you seeing is what I call it courage, because I can see how your heart can see, you can kind of look, and then hearing, opening up, the surrender and courage. That's the function of that primordial eye, and you need that's the most primordial game, is to be able to focus between attention and awareness exactly what it needs to unlock, keep on unlocking. It's like a self-resolving system. It's a problem and there's a resolution. There's a problem, resolution. This, of course, I'm making it quite dry with with those informatics metaphors, but you can make it wet by yourself if it's too dry. Anyway, what was I talking about? Right, making it wet. Okay. So that's the best that you could do. That might be that's the only thing that you're really required to do. That the rest of it is just bonus. Does that make sense? That your life is already unfolding in the most wonderful ways. But if you want to dream about something, just dream for the sake of fun, but not to get it, because whatever is best is already coming your way. And so, wouldn't that give you like like a true comfort or peace in the idea that you could, if you could take care of one thing, everything else going to be all right, and you just make sure that you take care of that one thing. Yeah, I think that's the one. I mean, that's the point. And you see, but The paradox there is that the very sparkling of that energy is the reflection of energy between the souls. In that dimension, we're already like those bouncing um, basketballs, like what Terence McKenna was describing them as a just bunch of souls, which is like your environment. And as soon as there is could be your environment, there could be a the other, because the other is your environment. Okay, but at that level, everybody's alive there as like one thing, but also individual, and that individuality creates that sparkle, that connection. And then we play with those connections at that level. That's what's going on. I'll go into a little bit like more superficial level or more mundane level. You know, you're creating something, you're dreaming about something, you are learning something, you're doing something, you're creating and playing, and that's that other level. And when you live throughout all the levels, everything works like a perfect machine. And you do know the times, and you don't try to break time. You don't try to break time. It's a kind of a tantrum. And speaking of these ego tantrums and all of these things that people do out of this ego, the like the view and the perspective about that, a healthy one. I was also looking at what would be the healthy outlook, is that it is not, of course, not healthy to validate the ego and say, well, it's okay, it's all right. No, you cannot validate that. You're being a very bad parent, like to yourself and others. If you validate the ego desires, right? You cannot validate them. So, but at the same time, you cannot be angry about them, because that still just makes them stronger. Does that make sense? But you don't validate them either. You, and at the same time, you don't go losing your marbles about it. And you live there, whereas that I'm not giving you energy. That you live there. You say, well, the reason I'm not giving energy, because I'm giving energy to the best thing that I can give energy to. That's why I'm not giving you energy. And so you have to approach life like that, at least at your personal level, right? Somebody does something out of ego, there is this thing that is trying to come online, and so that you need to help them with that thing first, until they get back to their own center and realize that, oh shit, yeah, I lost my shit for a second there. You know? And so at least you would want to be in a process of reduction of that. Just be in a process of reduction of that. Don't be somebody who just says like, well, it's supposed to be gone now. Okay, then you obviously lost again. But if you say like, I'm behind the process of reduction of the ego and the growth of the soul, like I am behind that process, and as long as I'm behind that process, I feel great, I feel fantastic, and things are changing for the better. But at the same time, I'm not trying to break time, and I'm not trying to push time forward before it can even do that, because it can't. But if I try to do this now, I'm fucking with the system of space-time, and then you can consider that the black magic, and that is where you just sin and start creating something wrong. And so that is the perspective to take. That's why I don't like when people like somebody who's just like I don't know, like trying to be validated by whoever, by egos. One ego is trying to be validated by another ego. So like you have like this woman that slept with 1,000 men, and so now she's going and looking for the validation with everybody, and she's whoever gives her validation is right, and whoever does not give her validation is wrong. Even though meantime she is obviously with no soul. You know, you can see it in the eyes. The eyes are empty. There is no sparkle in it. It's just like a zombie eyes. And so what just happened there? There's a lot of energy validating her existence. So as long as she's receiving that energy, as long as there are men out there who are, validating that type of shit, you are gonna be sustaining and creating more of that type of shit. By the way, this is actually the man's responsibility, because in his cosmological story, man saves himself first, and then he saves a woman. It it doesn't happen, simultaneously. At that level, at the level of time, because there's something about that saving yourself and saving another. Um, it appears to be happening like this in this cosmological story. It appears to be happening like this. Yeah, yeah, and that's the whole alchemist thing. And you make the philosopher's stone, and when you have the philosopher's stone, you have the capacity to purify the void, because you created the. It's like in a story, it is like that. But it's not any kind of superiority story. In the story, is always going to be that yang is leading yin always. So that's why the story is that yang is leading yin. That's the story. And that why it is beautiful, because it is so. It is how it's supposed to work in the freaking cosmos, and this is how the cosmological story is going. Why would you say? It's because it's the most beautiful one. That's why. And if you touch it, you're going to ruin it, because who are you to do this? It already is perfect. You see, if you criticize perfect, you're going to create something broken. You know. Oh my god, 48 minutes. Woohoo! So that's how it works. So I basically said a lot of these, the most highest leverage points in the game, the highest leverage points in the game. And of course, it may not be like anything that is in the Matrix. By the way, I mean, like, YouTube just became crap. Um, I Music is the only thing that the algorithm kind of picks pretty good for me, not the other ones, because like I don't be watching bunch of man children arguing about nonsense or talking about some vain crap, and everything is just crap, 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 like a very bad art. And so the only way I can find gold into that in the crap is not go through the algorithm anymore and just search. You know? And that's what I started doing. I started searching because the algorithm became so bad, so unwatchable and unbearable. And plus, I was blocking all sorts of ads anyway all the time. I use Revanced, YouTube Revanced. It's a little bit of fiddling around that you have to do, but you have the original YouTube was how it's supposed to be. No bullshit, nothing, just perfect. But how many of these fucking ads and sponsored blocks they started adding is like, it's fuck. What the fuck is this thing? It's unusable. Yeah, I know. I'm saying this that it is so, but that is perhaps like still in watching is like, and then thinking, am I just consuming a bunch of shit? Like, what the fuck is this? What is it for? You know? Don't consume shit. And I'm talking to myself, of course. Because sometimes, you watch some video about this drama thing that is just like, it's a stupid thing. But, for, I don't know, like, do whatever you want. But obviously, as long as it's done out of with fun and good thing, then there's no rules. Like, right, like if the principles are followed, then there are no rules. And that's one of the other big shifts that you realize living in that direct way, that I just have to be cool with the way things work as principles, because it's a very perfect clock. I trust that because I know that it's there, so I'm gonna bank on this. It may have delays, it may not be immediate, it may not be in a way that I want it, because it is better, and you have not just foreseen of what could it be with that perspective, unless you are just dying and being reborn as something new, unless you are alive. So yeah, just be alive, keep alchemizing, keep on punching. You know what I'm saying? All right, guys, man, that's enough. 52 minutes. Hope you liked my little broadcasting. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.